Endurance races, like the Dubai 24 Hours, push drivers, cars, and crews to their breaking point. But today, Loek Hartog, driver of the number 24 Dynamic GT Porsche, is fighting for more than just the famed camel ride to the podium. He is fighting to fulfill his dream of becoming a factory driver. Now, starting at this Dubai 24 Hours and continuing through the 2025 season, Loek has agreed to lift the curtains and provide us with unparalleled behind-the-scenes access as he pushes himself to the limit in the quest for sports car racing's most coveted contract. As the 24 car pulls away from the starting grid, Loek's teammate and Porsche factory driver Klaus Bachler lines up behind the defending LMGT3 world champion number 92 Porsche and alongside the 777 WRT BMW driven by factory driver Max Hesse. With world-class competition like this in the field, Loek has an incredible opportunity to showcase his talents against the best drivers and teams on the planet. But before he has the chance to do so, Klaus will have to survive the most hair-raising moment in any endurance race, the opening lap. With the race going green, they accelerate across the start-finish line, and the Mercedes sweeps in front of this 24 Porsche as the 777 BMW looks around the outside. That BMW is so strong in a straight line. Klaus is able to brake later into turn 1 though and holds off that BMW for third position as the leading two cars go side by side through the first two corners. The Porsche is hanging tough around the outside though as they go 2 by 2 through the sequence of fast corners. It may be a 24-hour race, but they are already fighting tooth and nail for position. The Porsche cedes the position as they head into turn 6, with Klaus now poking his nose up the inside in the braking zone, but hanging back as that 92 car collects itself in second position. The field strings out into a single file line as they make their way through this tricky braking zone into this left-hander. Klaus puts the power down, but the front two are just starting to get away as he makes his way onto this long straight and checks his mirror to see a field of GT3 cars hunting him down. We can see this number 991 red-nosed BMW is closing in quickly. Klaus tries to defend, but the BMW is already up the inside, and Sowery squeezes past through the apex, but Bachler isn't giving up and tries to fight back around the outside. They go side by side through the left-hander, but the BMW gets the better run coming out of the corner and has claimed third position from this 24 Porsche. With Klaus on the outside though, a Ferrari is able to squeeze past through the apex of this right-hander and pushes him slightly wide, allowing the 777 BMW to make its way past as well as Hesse tries to find a way past that Ferrari and nearly makes contact with Bachler. Into another tricky braking zone, and we can look in Klaus's mirror and see a Mercedes trying to fight its way past. He makes contact with Bachler through the apex, pushing the 24 Porsche wide and allowing Kai van Brillo to squeeze past as well, with the number 4 Mercedes following the 91 Porsche through. Although he has fallen back to 9th position as they make their way through the final corner on this opening lap, Klaus has completed his most important task, which was to keep the car clean. Now he and the rest of this 24 crew can begin to fight their way forward through the field. And into turn 1, he is side by side with the number 4 Mercedes and squeezes his way past through the braking zone, now able to focus fully on the number 91 Porsche, which is just ahead. With this stint continuing, the 24 Porsche has seemed to come alive as we can see that number 91 car is sliding around on the exit of that fast right-hander. Van Brillo surely has his hands full aboard that number 91 car as he leaves the door open for Klaus to sweep his way past. So, with Klaus chasing down the rest of the field, let's hear what Loek has to say about the start.
Yes, Mark, thank you for the introduction. So yeah, we're fighting and race is underway. As you've seen with the start, we fell back a few places and this has to do because we have multiple classes driving. So what we have is we have Pro-Am and Pro, and we're divided into Pro class. This gives us a little bit of an advantage on driver stint times, but it gives us a disadvantage with top speed. So this is why you saw the BMW and the Mercedes pulling so fast. So back to you, Mark.
Back on track, and Bachler has caught the Mercedes of Sorokin, who is stuck behind a slow Porsche into turn 1. Bachler nearly avoids making contact with the rear of that Mercedes, who is severely compromised through the first two corners. The Mercedes looks to go up the inside of the Porsche, but Backler goes around the outside of both of them with an incredible pass through that right-hander, up into 6th position as he continues his charge up through the field, now catching up to the number 92 Porsche, which started on pole position. But with Backler in touching distance of the leading Porsche, he pulls to the right and slams on the brake as he enters the pit lane to hand over to Loek Hartog. Now, pit stops, just like any other aspect of endurance racing, take many iterations to perfect. So, with this being the first stop of this race, it doesn't quite go to plan. Klaus is struggling a bit with the window net, and Luke is fumbling a bit trying to find where his seatbelts are. But with the tire change complete, the car is dropped off the jacks, and Luke sends the car on the way, but the passenger door isn't closed yet. He stops the car, the team comes running after it, slams the door shut, and finally, Luke is sent back on his way down the pit lane. But we can see that instead of continuing onto the racetrack like you might expect, Luke has pulled off to the right into this other area. This is one of the quirks of the 24 Hours of Dubai, where instead of refueling in pit lane, teams use this area with gas station-like pumps to fill up their cars. And with his team running over to that pump, Luke pulls into his box, and the team begins pumping fuel just like you or I would at a gas station. The 777 BMW pulls away from its fuel pump as it slides its rear tires and heads back out on track, with Loek Hartog following closely behind. So, as Luke hammers the throttle and heads back out on track, he is not only chasing down the 777 BMW, but also trying to execute the undercut on the number 92 Porsche. Into turn 1, he is sliding all over the place on his cold tires, but pushing as hard as he can to catch that number 92 car. So, as Luke screams down the front straight to cross the start-finish line for the first time during this 24-hour race, we can look to the pit lane exit and see that there is the 92 Porsche of Thomas Preining. As Luke closes in on a Porsche Cup car through turn 1, he makes an aggressive pass around the outside and through the inside of turn 2. With Luke on hot tires, he is closing in dramatically on this 92 Porsche, which is also caught behind a Cup car. Luke pokes his nose up the inside through the apex of this fast left-hander, make that around the outside through the right-hander. He is temporarily ahead, but that 92 car squeezes its way past through the apex, with Luke relinquishing 4th position to Thomas Preining. It was a valiant effort by Luke to try to make his way past, but he is now following closely behind that number 92 car as he slides his way through that left-hander. Now, as Luke mentioned, there are different classes of drivers in this race. So, with Luke being rated a semi-professional driver, he has a bit more freedom with drive time compared to his teammate Klaus Backler, for example, who is a pro driver. So, the teams are really relying on drivers like Luke to be fast in the car and also eat up a lot of drive time over the course of this race. So, as Luke once again slides through that left-hander and tucks into the draft of another Porsche Cup car, he is closing in on the 777 BMW, which has an AM driver behind the wheel. For a sports car racing fan like me, tactics like this are what make endurance racing so exciting, because it forces teams to use every element of their lineup to maximize their results. As they exit turn 1, make their way through turn 2, we can see traffic up ahead for Darren Lung. As we've seen already several times throughout this race, this Porsche really likes the high-speed corners and closes in on the 777 BMW. Into the braking zone for turn 6, Luke closes in on the BMW of Darren Lung, who leaves the door open through this tight right-hander, leaving plenty of racing room for Luke behind. Into the tight left-hander, Luke once again holds a tighter line and closes in on that 777 BMW. Luke maximizes every inch of road on the exit, but we can see just how strong that BMW is in a straight line as Darren Lung easily pulls away on the straights. If Luke is going to make his way past this BMW, he is going to have to make it happen in the braking zones, as we can once again see him erase that gap that the BMW built in a straight line. Through this fast left-hander, Luke uses all of the apex curb and the exit curb as well as he maximizes the track width and then sends it up the inside of the BMW. Darren Lung leaving plenty of room once again for Luke as he makes his way past the BMW for 4th position, But if we look to the right, there is the BMW of Darren Lung one more time, showing just how strong he is in a straight line. He fights back around the outside, but Loek breaks late up the inside once again, holding a tight line through this left-hander and solidifying his 4th position as he closes in on a gaggle of traffic. He is going to have to make quick work of these cars ahead so that he's not re-overtaken by the 777 BMW of Darren Lung. Into the final corner, and the Bentley Continental is really wide. Loek easily makes his way past on the exit. But this Continental is a blast from the past, literally, and comes absolutely flying by Loek on the straight. Loek switches it up on him though, brakes late up the inside into turn 1, making his way past that Bentley one more time as he continues to try to chase down this 92 Porsche and stay ahead of the 777 BMW. There is yet more traffic ahead though, as there is a slow touring car. You can see the Lamborghini backing out of it. Loek makes it 3 wide through the middle, through these fast sweeping corners, and then brakes up the inside of that number 80 Porsche, and the Mercedes leaves the door open through the apex as well. I think that was, 4 passes in the span of 2 corners, as Loek charges his way through this traffic, trying to maximize his stint and catch up to that number 92 Porsche. He is now in the draft of this Porsche Cup car and makes his way past as they go down the long back straight and head into the tight hairpin. As Loek heads into the apex, we can see that white number 92 Porsche just ahead as Loek gets a little kick of oversteer on the exit, not afraid to hang out the rear end of this Porsche. He makes his way past around the outside of a Cup car as he closes in on yet more Porsche traffic just out front. One of the quirks of this race is that there are no safety cars, only code 60s. So traffic management is especially critical because anytime you lose during the race, you cannot gain back behind a safety car. So as Loek breaks into this tight left-hander, he lines up this Porsche 911 GT3R for another overtake. That Porsche just ahead is running a really tight line to that right-hander. Loek has a much better exit and easily sweeps his way past as they make their way through the final corner and onto the long front straight. But instead of hitting the throttle on the exit, he hits the speed limiter because, as we can see up ahead, there was a massive accident which has brought out a code 60. And as Loek avoids the debris on track, he is directly behind that 92 Porsche of Thomas Priding. And with the field running at a reduced pace, this is the perfect time for Loek to head into the pit lane and fill up on fuel. With the race ready to go back to green, Loek finds himself in first position and once again looking to make his way quickly and efficiently through the traffic out front. He slams on the throttle as the race goes back to green and makes his way past a Porsche Cup car up the inside into this tight left-hander. That GT3 ahead stays really wide and Loek is able to find his way past through the apex as he gets a kick of oversteer on the exit. These tires are so cold and he just understeers through this right-hander. He needs to quickly put temperature in them if he is to maintain this lead. Into the final corner, and once again, it's a huge amount of understeer on these cold tires as he makes his way past that Ginetta GT4 and closes in on 2 more Porsche Cup cars as he weaves side to side, trying to generate some sort of temperature in these tires. The white car tries to defend its position, but brakes too late and ends up off the circuit as the car on the inside leaves room for Loek on the outside as he sweeps his way past, but we see a car in the wall on the exit. That was a Mercedes GT3, and that will once again bring out a code 60 as Loek slides it through the right-hander on his cold tires. Now, although this code 60 will be coming out, Loek is pushing as hard as he can because, as I mentioned before, every single second counts. So he needs to gain as much time as he possibly can before this code 60 comes out. He slams on the brakes and hits that limiter as the race is now under code 60 conditions. Ironically though, he finds himself up behind the number 80 Porsche, which he'll be racing next weekend at Yas Marina. The team once again determines that with the field at a reduced pace, this is the perfect time to come make a pit stop. So as Loek makes his way down the pit lane in first position, let's hand it over to the man himself to describe how to execute a pit stop here at Dubai.
So usually the tires take around 12 seconds and then we have the driver change, which is in between 12 to 15 seconds. So as soon as the door closes, the car drops and then we go. We have a launch button as well in the car, so it's a fast launch. And then usually we tighten the belts when we're refueling. This takes roughly 2.5 minutes. But under code 60s, we're only allowed to do 25% of the fuel capacity.
With AM driver Kiefer now out on track, he continues to lead the race, but is hounded by the 88 Ferrari, which looks around the outside into this tight right-hander. Kiefer tries to hold on to the position, but that Ferrari has a better run coming out of the corner as the Porsche gets a little bit of a slide on the exit. They go side by side, and the Ferrari just slightly pulls away as Kiefer falls in line behind the 88 car, heading into the tight left-hander. But just one lap later, as they make their way through this left-right sequence, the Ferrari pulls to the right, once again handing over the lead to this number 24 car. With his stint coming to an end, Kiefer pulls to the right-hand side and into the pit lane, but is caught behind a slow Ferrari on the entry. He tries to find his way around, but isn't able to do so. You fight so hard to gain time in races like this. Losing it all in the pit lane entry is so painful. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Kiefer enters his pit box and the team goes to work, changing tires on this 24 Porsche. Now that we are 4 hours into this race, the team is much more composed during this pit stop as Fjordbak buckles himself in to this number 24 Porsche. With the stop complete, the door is slammed shut and Fjordbak is ready to go, but the 92 Porsche beats them out of pit lane. Being stuck behind that slow Ferrari cost this number 24 car the effective lead of the race. With Fjordbak out on track and back in second position, this 24 car once again finds itself in an epic battle with the 777 BMW. If we look to the right, there is that 777 car as Fjordbak tries to fight back around the outside in the braking zone for the hairpin, but that BMW has the line and the position, shuffling this 24 Porsche back to third in class. With these cars battling out on track, let's take a look behind the scenes with Luke to see how he's preparing for his next stint.
So one thing that really characterizes this event is that we all have containers. So all teams have their containers, and so do we. I just got dressed up again, so I'm going into the car after 3 hours of a break. And what really now turns out after a few stints is that we're not necessarily lacking pace as much as we thought in qualifying, where we were roughly, let's say, a second off. It's only really at the beginning of the stints where we're losing, and then in the end we get everything back. So it's really a traffic race, and so far it's working out for us. So there's a lot of things to avoid. Probably I'll do some daring moments because you have to risk it for a biscuit here, and yeah, so far so good.
With Luke all pumped up and ready to go, another code 60 comes out and Fjordbak pulls this 24 car into the pit lane, just behind the 777 BMW. And as Fjordbak pulls into his pit box, Luke is waiting on the left-hand side, eagerly anticipating his arrival. With each pit stop, the team is looking more and more coordinated, this one going even more smoothly than the last. With the tires complete, Luke is dropped and sent on his way and overtakes the 777 BMW on the right to claim second position. But as the race is ready to go back to green, that second position becomes first, and Luke once again leads the field back to green. But if we look in his rearview camera, we can see the headlights from the 777 BMW that is now driven by Dan Harper. And if you watched last year's Nürburgring 24 Hours, you know just how talented that BMW driver is, as he was fighting for the lead for much of that race. So Luke is going to have to push to the limit to keep this Porsche in first position. And as he makes his way through this tight right-hander, he closes in on a gaggle of traffic and goes around the outside of a Porsche Cup car, flashing his lights to warn the rest of the traffic that he is making his way past, whether they like it or not. Into the tight left-hander, he sweeps past another Porsche Cup car, and we can see him sliding the rear as he pushes this Porsche to its limits to stay ahead of that 777 BMW. Luke was clearly not lying when he said he was going to risk it for a biscuit, but that's what he has to do to continue progressing through his career. He needs to time and time again show that he can go toe-to-toe with the best drivers in the world, as we see a slow BMW on the exit. That Mercedes ahead tries to go around the outside, and Luke nearly goes off the track trying to avoid those slower cars. He brakes up the inside of that Mercedes, making his way past, as he once again slides on the exit, extracting every ounce of performance from this Porsche 992. Now, as he makes his way into the next left-hander, I'm going to do something that I normally never do in my videos, because as he enters this left-hander, I'm going to pause it and show you that in his mirror, a Mercedes actually loses control in the braking zone. Loek has the wherewithal, though, to hit the throttle at this moment and drive his Porsche wide to the exit of the corner and avoid being hit from behind by that Mercedes. He is slow coming out of the corner and gets a big slide on the exit, but critically avoids being taken out and continues to hold the lead as he has cooked his rear tires in avoidance of that errant Mercedes. Somehow, all the while, able to maintain his overall lead in this 24-hour race. As his stint comes to an end, we can look in the mirrors and see that they are still full of 777 BMW, but with one more slide, he makes his way into the pit lane to hand over to his teammates, having completed the mission by staying ahead of the 777 BMW and keeping this Porsche in one piece. Klaus Bachler patiently waits as Loek makes his way into the pit box to hand over the reins of this 24 Porsche. With the 24 Porsche continuing out on track, let's head behind the wall with Loek to see how he's recovering from that incredible stint.
So we're almost 5 hours into the race. I just finished driving, and behind me I just got a massage, so that's very nice. This goes on behind the scenes, and maybe fun fact is that at least if I speak for myself, I don't really know where we're stacking up right now. So we're fighting for the top 3 for sure, and it was a crazy stint, very hectic, and now it really starts to become a traffic race. I had 2 very big moments. It was tough out there. I really used the flasher a lot to make people aware that I'm coming, and this worked out. You see, I'm pretty fried, and this moment I also get to take some sleep and not really focus the racing. Just refuel. I think this is very important to get back in the car energized. Essentially, this is our task, so this is what I'm doing right now.
The 24 car continued to battle for the lead throughout the night, but unfortunately, we lost the onboard camera. So you'll have to take my word for it when I say that by the time the sun rose on Sunday morning, the fatigue from battling flat out throughout the night was beginning to set in.
Yes, Mark, that's right. It's very tough on the body. At this point, it's 8 in the morning, and everybody had, all the drivers had maybe 4 hours of sleep, and then all the team, they had 0 sleep. They were all awake, so a race like this is incredibly demanding. You feel like a zombie. You put in sugars, you put in the carbohydrates just to fuel up your body, and in the car it feels alright, but when you jump out, it's incredibly tough. So for this, we need to rest hard and then work hard again.
Despite this fatigue, the team continued to battle through the rest of the day and achieved an incredibly well-earned camel ride to the podium, as they came across the line in 3rd position, just behind the 92 Porsche and 777 BMW. Anyways, if you guys made it this far, you clearly enjoyed watching this video as much as we enjoyed making it. So I want to thank you so much for watching and give a quick shout out to my channel members. Thank you guys for all the support. I really appreciate it. I love you guys. And Loek, I'm going to hand the reins over to you to close out this video.
Yes, Mark. And from my side, thank you so much for watching. I really like to do this kind of format. So if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, a subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see something like this in the future. If you have any suggestions to make, please let us know in the comments. We'll be watching, and see you in the next one.